Hello everyone, welcome to the channel of Next IAS. My name is Twinkle and I am back again to discuss some important questions for the upcoming Prelims 2022. Without wasting any time, we'll discuss the questions and we'll try to cover the topic as a whole, okay? And the peripheral topics that are involved in the questions or relates to the question in some way or the other. So, let us start with question number 1. With reference to the Attorney General of India, consider the following statements. Okay, so we are dealing with this Attorney General of India in this question. Let us check the statements. The statement 1 is, he is considered a government servant. We shall check this. He should be qualified to be appointed as Supreme Court judge. It's talking about the eligibility here. Yeah, this relates to the eligibility. He has the right to speak and take part in proceedings of both houses of the parliament as well as in the joint sitting. Okay, proceedings as well as joint sittings of both the houses. They're talking about Rajya Sabha, they're talking about the Lok Sabha. We should be clear about the role of Attorney General of India, right? So, if we are doing this question, I want certain things that should be clear to you, right? Number 1 is about the article, okay, which article deals with the office of the Attorney General, okay. So, which article has the provision about the Attorney General of India, we will see that. Next, we need to see who appoints, appointment of the Attorney General, okay. Third, we'll talk about the difference between the Attorney General's role and the Chief Justice of India's role, right? And fourth, we should check if he is allowed to be a part of the proceedings, okay, of both the houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So, we need to be clear about all these 4 things, okay, once we wind up with this question. So, let us start with the first thing. Which article relates to this? So, it is Article 76 of the Indian Constitution. Okay. You need to remember this. Appointment, if we talk about the appointment of the Attorney General of India, okay, so he is appointed by the President. He is appointed by the President on the advice, okay, on the advice of the Union Council of Ministers. Please keep this in mind. Union Council of Ministers. Okay, so that's one thing. And that is why the term of the service of the Attorney General of India is not specified, okay. So, he serves during the pleasure of the President and he resigns conventionally when the Council of Ministers, okay, resigns or is replaced, okay. So, that is a thing because he is actually kept on the advice, right, on the advice of the Council of Ministers. Now, we'll check about this, but before that, I want you to know this thing, okay, about the participation in the proceedings. Now, if I talk about this thing, whether he is allowed to participate in the proceedings. So, there was a statement in the question as well. So, the answer is yes, okay. The answer is yes, he can participate, but he can participate where? He can participate in the proceedings of the Lok Sabha, he can participate in the proceedings of the Rajya Sabha or of whatever house he has he's been declared as a member of. And he can also be he can also be present in the joint sitting Okay, joint sitting. He can only participate. If it is talking only about the participation in the proceedings, the answer is yes, but he is not allowed to vote. Okay, not eligible to vote. He can participate in the proceedings, but he cannot vote. Okay, please make a note of this because this can be a tricky statement. Now, next we will talk about the Attorney General and the Chief Justice of India. So, what is the difference? If I say Attorney General is responsible for the amendment and reinforcement of the laws. What did I say? If I talk about Attorney General here and Chief Justice of India here. So, Attorney General is responsible for the enforcement and amendment, okay, of the laws, okay. But if I talk about the Chief Justice of India, so the Chief Justice of India is responsible to conduct the court hearings before the laws actually is enforced, okay. So that is the difference. So Attorney General is responsible for enforcement and amendment of the laws, and CGI is responsible to conduct the court hearings. Conduct the court hearings okay, before the law is enforced. Right? I hope this is clear. So that is the difference between the Attorney General's role and the Chief Justice of India's role. Attorney General is called as the highest law officer, okay? Highest law officer of the country. And that is the role and responsibility. So let us check something more about the Attorney General. So like I told you, if we see the structure of the union government, okay, so there is an executive, there is a legislature, and Attorney General is the part of the executive of the union government, right? Now, Attorney General is not barred, okay? He is not barred from private legal practice. What did I say? Not barred. Barred from private legal practice. He can still continue to practice. Okay, so he is not barred from the private legal practice. And maybe that's why we can say he is not considered as a government servant. Okay, I hope this is clear. Next, if we talk about the term, so term is not fixed by the constitution, okay. Like I told you, he is appointed by the president and he serves, okay, and he serves during the pleasure of the president. That means the president can remove him anytime, and conventionally he can resign when the government is replaced or the government resigns. By government, I mean that Council of Ministers resign or is replaced. At that time, he also conventionally resigns, okay? Because why? Because he is appointed on their advice only. He is appointed by the president, but on the advice of the Council of Ministers. I hope this is clear to you, okay? And like we discussed, it's Article 76, which provides about the office of the Attorney General of India. He is the highest law officer, the first legal officer, and appointed by the president. We know all this, right? term is not fixed, and he may also quit office by submitting his resignation to the president. Okay, so that is another provision. If he is willing to quit, he can submit the resignation to the president. Now I think we are good to go and solve the question. Let us check. Yeah. He is considered a government servant? No, this is wrong. He should be qualified to be appointed as Supreme Court judge? Yes. This is one eligibility. Or he should be a judge. Judge in High Court. For 5 years, right? For 5 years. Or an advocate. Where? In the High Court only. For 10 years. Okay. So this is eligibility 1, eligibility 2, eligibility 3. So he should be fulfilling either of it. He has the right to speak and take part in the proceedings of both the houses of the parliament as well as in the joint sitting. Yes, this statement is correct because it's only talking about the participation in the proceedings. Speak and take part in the proceedings. But अगर यहाँ पे ये भी होता with a right to vote, with a right to vote, तब ये statement गलत हो जाती, right? I hope the thing is clear, okay? So there can be a tricky thing coming up this way in your prelims exam. So keep that in mind. So only statement 2 and 3 is correct. The answer is B, okay? I hope this is clear to all of you. The answer is B and everything we've discussed already. So now we'll see question number 2 here. It is talking about the Parivesh portal. What is the aim of the Parivesh portal which was seen recently in the news? Okay, so we are talking about this Parivesh portal here. One thing you have to note that Parivesh is an acronym, okay? And what does Parivesh mean? Parivesh means proactive, okay, and responsive, proactive and responsive facilitation by virtuous environmental, okay, virtuous environmental single hub window, okay, single hub window. That is what the Parivesh portal is all about, okay. So it's proactive and responsive facilitation by virtuous environmental single hub window, okay. Now we need to know it is relating to what. I am sure that as soon as I've mentioned the full form of this acronym, there might be certain guess, okay. And if you can guess, just look at the options carefully and look at the full form of this Parivesh portal acronym, right? So it's definitely talking about the environmental thing, okay? And that is why option number A is correct, that Parivesh portal is in relevance to environment impact assessment approval, okay? What is the aim of Parivesh portal? It is to have the environment impact assessment. Now, if we talk about the environmental impact assessment, EIA. So, environmental impact assessment, basically what does it do? It checks the impact of a particular project or particular industry or any developmental work which is being done or which is in the process of getting established, or any factory that has been set up. So it studies the environmental impact of that particular developmental project so as to avoid the adverse effect in the future, okay. So it studies the environmental impact. It studies the environmental impact, okay. Then it also studies the social impact. Okay. Then it also studies the economic impact. Right? Of what? It studies the impact, environmental impact, social impact and economic impact of any developmental projects. Developmental projects. Okay. Now you need to know one more thing. One more thing is about the Parivesh portal, right? Now how are they connected? Parivesh portal. Of course, they both deal with environment, right? So this is dealing with environment. This is also dealing with environment. Parivesh portal, what did I say? It was a single window hub. Okay. Single window hub. And the objective to establish Parivesh portal is to provide all types of clearances which is required by the industrialist, okay, for setting up any projects, any factory, a chemical factory, etc. So it gives clearances, clearances about clearances for the environment, for the forest, for the wildlife, or any CRZ zone. Okay, CRZ is Coastal Regulation Zone. So it will be a single window where all types of clearances will be provided. All types of clearances. Clearances will be provided. So a person does not need to go to separate offices, you know, getting all sorts of, getting one clearance done from this place, other clearance done from that place. So this is a single window hub where all sorts of clearances will be given to the person when an industrialist, a person is seeking permission to establish the project. Okay. So that is what it is all about. I hope this must have been clear to all of you, right? So we've covered the Parivesh portal details also and the EIA also. Now the next thing you need to know is about why this has been in news. So there is something called as State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority. Okay. What did I say? I said State Environmental. Okay. This is State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority. Okay. Now, the government said that there would be a star rating system. Any person who's approaching for the clearances, so the state Environmental Impact Authority should be responsible to have a prompt action. Okay. So there will be a star rating. So to check that how long did the authority take to give the clearance for a particular developmental project. So lesser the time, prompt is the response, better will be the star rating. So that is why it was prominently in news. Okay. So let us go ahead. Of course, you all knew the answer, right? As soon as we decode this acronym, we just can simply guess that it is about the Environmental Impact Assessment Approval. Okay. So yeah, another thing you need to know is about that Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, okay, has given this provision of Parivesh portal. Okay. So please remember the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And the acronym is decoded as Proactive and Responsive Facilitation by Interactive, Virtuous and Environmental Single Window Hub. Okay. So I hope that's clear to all of you. We'll go ahead with question number 3. Question number 3 here talks about the proposal for the creation of the Indian Environment Service was recommended by which committee? Okay. So is it Gadgil Committee, is it Kelkar Committee, TSR Subramaniam Committee or Ranbir Singh Committee? So we need to understand which committee has given this recommendation. So first we'll choose the committee, okay, we'll choose the right answer, which committee was it, and then we'll talk more further details about it. So it was not Gadgil Committee, it was not Kelkar Committee, it was TSR Subramaniam Committee which gave this recommendation of what? Of forming the Indian Environment Service, okay. Now This was given in the year 2014. Okay, this was given in the year 2014. If we talk about it, we'll see that it was set up in August 2014. Okay, and to review countries' green laws. Okay, to review the country's green laws and the procedures followed by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Okay, so it was to review the green laws. Now it suggested several amendments in almost all of the green laws. Okay, that was including the forest, wildlife, coastal zone clearance. So it gave amendments in almost all the green laws. Then they also suggested that there has to be another committee, okay, with a dedicated expertise in this environmental matter, with dedicated time. Okay, so expertise and time dedicatedly coming together might give solutions to the environmental problems that we are facing. Problems like water pollution, we are facing problems like air pollution, okay, air and water pollution, and then lack of progress in eliminating the solid waste and garbage. Okay, so these are the things, and the damage which has been caused to the natural environment. So they said that there has to be a dedicated committee with dedicated expertise. Okay, that was the recommendation of the Subramaniam Committee. Now, like I told you, it was set up in the year 2014. Okay, and there were certain amendments which were given, and the amendments were in the green laws that were relating to forest, wildlife, as well as CZR, Coastal Regulation Zone, okay, or CZC, Coastal Zone Clearances. Now, they had proposed the establishment of environment management authorities at national as well as state level, and next they also proposed the establishment of Indian Environment Services. Okay, now everything is fine, like they have a valid point, but then there is the other side of the story. Now they say that dedicated time and dedicated people with dedicated knowledge and expertise might be a team might be helpful in solving so many environmental issues and coping with the challenges that we are dealing these days. So now the other side of the story is there can be a conflict, okay, there can be a clash. Why am I saying it? Because there can be a conflict or a clash with the already existing All India service. Okay, and what is that? We are talking about the Indian Forest Service here. Okay, so that's where it is, and it will just be challenging, okay, to the federal structure. Okay, so there will be certain challenges to the federal structure. Okay, so you have to understand this point as well. So I think everything which was essential and required for your prelims exam we've covered. There's a lot more detail to this which you can just read it out whenever you're free. You should be knowing that it comes it was given under the Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change. Okay, so this is also one important thing you have to remember. Yeah, so we'll check question number 4 now. It talks about the Swamitva scheme. Okay, it talks about the Swamitva scheme. It says, with reference to Swamitva scheme, consider the following statements. Number 1, it talks about the ministry. Okay, it is launched by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. It is a centrally sponsored scheme, we shall check that. And it aims to allow citizens to use their property as a financial asset for taking loans and other financial benefits. Okay, property as an asset. We'll check, but before that, we need to know certain things about Swamitva scheme. Okay, so if we talk about Swamitva scheme, it is an acronym, okay, which means Survey of Villages and Mapping with Improvised Technology in Village Areas. Okay, so survey and mapping of what? Mapping of the land in the rural areas. That is what it is talking about. The nodal ministry is the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Okay, that is the nodal ministry. So I think one of the statement is clear. It's not under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. It is in the under the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Okay, this should be clear to you. It is a central sector scheme. Okay, that is also correct. Now you need to understand what is a central sector scheme, and at the same time you need to understand the central sponsored scheme. Okay, now there are two types of schemes. So we'll first understand the two types of schemes. Okay, there is central sponsored scheme, okay, and central sector scheme. You need to understand what does the central sponsored scheme means and what central sector scheme means. Okay, so we need to understand in very simple words the schemes. Okay, the schemes which are sponsored by the central government are central sponsored scheme. Okay, so in this the scheme will be implemented by whom? By the state government, but largely funded by the central government. Okay, so it is implemented by the state government. The schemes are implemented by the state government, but largely the major chunk of the fund is given by the central government. That is, it is sponsored by the central government. Okay, so this is one thing. If we talk about the central sector scheme, so it is implemented, okay, and completely funded by the central government. Okay, so I hope you understand the two types of schemes. The central sector scheme is completely of the central government, implementation, its funding, and central sponsored scheme is there's just a sponsorship given by the central government, okay, and the implementation is done by the state government, and a large part is being sponsored or funded by the central government, and a very small part is by the state government. Okay, I hope this is clear to all of you. If we talk about this particular scheme, okay, this is a central sector scheme. Okay, what does this mean? Implementation and funding is completely by the central government. Okay, it is completely by the central government. Now its aim is to provide an integrated property validation solution for rural areas. Like we know, there are so many issues and clashes taking place in the rural areas over lands, okay, and the land or properties. So what happens is that in spite of possessing property, in spite of possessing land, they cannot use it as a financial asset. The people in the rural areas struggle to, have any benefits out of the properties. So this particular scheme aims to give the validation to the properties so they can enable the benefits which is given on assets like the land and etc. Okay, so that is why the scheme is there. Like I told you, this will have the mapping of rural inhabited land through drones and new technology. Okay, and they will be giving the property rights to the people. Okay, swamitva to people through identification of property rights. Okay, and this will settle the disputes, like we already discussed, the property disputes in the rural areas, and this will streamline the revenue collection and planning. Okay, I hope this is clear to all of you. There are 6 states. Okay, there are 6 states in the very first phase. The 6 states where this project has been taken up is the state of Haryana, okay, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, okay, Uttarakhand, and Madhya Pradesh, okay, and Karnataka. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So these are the 6 places on 6 states on pilot basis in 6 states. These are the states, okay, where this project or this scheme has been launched. Okay, so I hope this is clear to all of you. So now if we look at the options, I'm sure you'll be able to solve the question after the discussion. So it says it is launched by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Absolutely wrong. Why? Because I clearly told you it is launched by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj on Panchayati Raj Day. Okay, so it was launched on the Panchayati Raj Day only. Okay, and it is a centrally sponsored scheme. No, it is not sponsored. This is not sponsored, but it is central sector scheme. Okay, and I told you the difference because this is completely in the hands of the central government. The implementation and the complete funding is done by the central government. That is why it is central sector scheme. Okay, it aims to allow citizens to use their property as a financial asset for taking loans and other financial benefits. Yes, this is right, because that is the primary aim of the entire scheme. Okay, so 3 is correct, 1 is wrong, and centrally sponsored scheme, this is also wrong. So only 3 is the right answer. Okay, option D. I hope this is clear to all of you. Yeah. Now we'll check question number 5. It talks about a personality. So he was born in 1017 at Sri Perumbudar in Tamil Nadu. Sri Perumbudar in Tamil Nadu. He is revered worldwide as a Vedic philosopher, social reformer, and one of the most important exponents of Sri Vaishnava tradition. Okay. So yeah, there might be 2-3 personalities who come to your mind when we talk about the Vaishnava tradition. But let us see which one is this question talking about. He advocated the philosophy of Vishishta Advaita. Okay, he wrote Vedartha Sangraha and Sri Bhashya. Yeah, Vedartha Sangraha and Sri Bhashya. Who was he? So was he Namdev? Are we talking about Swami Dayananda Saraswati? Are we talking about Ramanujacharya, or are we talking about Tukaram? So we'll just figure out what personality we're talking about here, and then we'll discuss about the personality. So we are basically talking about Ramanujacharya. Okay, Ramanujacharya. These are all the things which are in the contribution and the popular things and traits of Ramanujacharya. Now, if we talk about Ramanujacharya, so we see that he played a very significant role in the Bhakti movement. Okay, he played a very significant role in the Bhakti movement. So we need to know about the Bhakti movement as well. So if we talk about the Bhakti movement, we know that it was between the 7th century to the 12th century. Okay, so that was the time when Bhakti movement actually was very significant and was taking place very aggressively. Now, Bhakti means devotion to God, and it is inspired by Upanishads and the Gita. Okay, Bhakti movement was inspired, and it began from the South India. Okay, and then it later on spread. Monotheism, equality, and ritual-free worship are the teachings of Bhakti movement. Okay, and it promoted peaceful coexistence. Okay, so it did not. Bhakti movement was not discriminative. It was not supporting discrimination. Okay, it says that the entire there was one thing that comes when we talk about the Bhakti movement. So it says the entire world is one place. Okay, the entire world is one place. Okay, and when we talk about Bhakti movement, we should also know that it gave impetus to the concept of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Okay, so Vasudeva Kutumbakam means the universe is one family, and they did not support discrimination. They did not support the untouchability. Okay, and they preached the message of Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which means the universe is a one family, or the entire world is a family. Okay, they embraced the untouchables and treated them with they embraced the untouchables and treated them well, gave them good treatment. Okay, and they liberated million forms of social, cultural, gender, educational and economic discrimination. So like I told you, they never supported discrimination in any way, whether economic, whether gender based discrimination, whether social discrimination, or anything in that regard. Okay, so that's all about it. So Ramanujacharya was also an inspiration to great poets like Kabir, Mirabai, Annamacharya and Bhakta Ramdas. Okay, and you can read and go through this. Okay, so these are the 9 scriptures, which is the Navratnas. Okay, 9 gems. The Navratnas, which was the contribution of Ramanujacharya. So you can take a look at that. It's about Vidartha Sangraha, Sri Bhashya, Gita Bhashya, Vedanta Deepa, Vedanta Sara, Sarangati Gadya, Sriranga Gadya and Sri Vaikuntha Gadya and Nitya Grantham. So these are the scriptures which were given by Ramanujacharya. So I hope this is clear to all of you. We'll go ahead to the next question. Yeah, so now let us take a look at question number 6 here. Question number 6 is saying that consider the following statements. India has a trade deficit with China and a trade surplus with USA. Okay, trade deficit with China and trade surplus with USA. The US is India's top trading partner, followed by China. So we have to check if the statements are right or wrong. But before that, you must understand what is trade deficit and what is trade surplus. Okay, so let us go ahead and then we'll check why this question has arisen here. Now, if you talk about trade deficit, the word trade deficit, you should be understanding this, that the amount by which the cost of a country's imports, okay, cost of the country's imports exceeds the value of its exports. Okay, so the cost of the import is more than the value of the export of a particular country, then that is called as the trade deficit. Vice versa is the definition of trade surplus. So in trade surplus, what happens is the country's exports, okay, is more. The exports exceeds the cost of its imports. So export is more, import is less, that is trade surplus. Okay, and in simple words, if we talk about trade deficit, then the exports is less, but the imports is very much. Okay, country's imports is exceeding than the value of the exports. Now with China, what is the scene? So in case of China, there's a data which was given by the government of China recently, okay? So GACC, the General Administration of Customs of China, okay? So government of China gave a data recently, and it said that India has a trade deficit with China, okay? So we need to analyze this thing. If we talk about the trade deficit, it is $69.38 billion, okay? And the report said that the total trade between China and India in the year 2021 was how much? $125.66 billion. Now this, they're talking about the bilateral trade. Okay, so here they're talking about the bilateral trade between what? Between India and China. This report was talking about the bilateral trade, okay? The total, which is the highest ever, okay? This is the highest ever. But out of this $125 billion, the import is of $97.52 billion, like approximately $100 billion, right? And export is only of $28.14 billion. That is why you see here the import, okay? The import is quite high, okay? And the value of export is quite low. One thing you need to note that this is also the highest ever, but it's of no use. This is also the highest ever, okay, which is $28.14 billion, but it's of no use. Even if it's a good news that it's highest ever recorded export from India to China, it doesn't make us happy, and it's not a news of any pleasure, right? And why? Because we see the trade deficit, which is $69.38 billion, right? $69.38 billion, that is the trade deficit, right, between India and China. So even if this is a good news, it makes no sense, because here when we see, so we are just getting disappointed in a way. Now, why is this scene arising? Even if India is a good manufacturer, okay, one of the strong manufacturers of the pharmaceuticals, India relies on China for one thing, okay, not just for one thing, maybe two things I can say. One is the API, okay, one is the API. Now APIs are active pharmaceutical ingredients, okay. So India relies on China for these pharmaceutical ingredients, though it is manufacturing most of the medicines on its own, but the reliance on China for API is around 70%, okay. Apart from that, if we talk about some silly medicines just for paracetamol, okay, for medicines or drugs like azithromycin, okay, so India is completely relying on the Chinese market. Apart from that, if I talk about certain drugs, life-saving drugs, okay, life-saving drugs, you won't believe that India is dependent by more than 90% on China, okay. So even if we are doing good in the pharmaceutical industry or the pharmaceutical sector, the raw materials we are getting it from China, and that's where we are not able to cope with the deficit, the trade deficit. And there are so many other factors. This is just one that I've discussed here, okay. So that's the scenario. Now let us go to the question. India has a trade deficit with China. Of course, I showed you the digits, and that's why we conclude that yes, India has a trade deficit with China, and at the same time, it is true that India has a trade surplus with USA, okay. You can read about that later on. But our major concern was India-China trade deficit, which was recently in news. The US is India's top trading partner? No, US is not India's top trading partner. China is India's top trading partner, followed by the USA, the UAE, and etc. Okay, so this statement stands to be wrong. Only statement 1 is correct. Option A is right. Yeah, like I told you, only 1 is correct. 2 is not correct. Why? China is India's top trading partner, followed by US, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Singapore. Okay, so I hope this must have been clear to you. We'll go ahead with the next question. Yeah. Question number 7 says, recently, Nusantara was in the news regarding the country's shift of capital city. Where is it located? Okay, so we're talking about Nusantara here. Okay, and we're talking about the shift of a country's capital, and which is the country which is about to change its capital. So, Nusantara, here we are talking about Indonesia, let me tell you, okay. So, it is recently in news because Indonesia has decided to change its capital, okay, which is currently in Jakarta. From Jakarta, they are shifting to Nusantara, okay. Let us check the map first, okay. So, yeah, this is Jakarta, which is the present capital. Okay, so Jakarta is the present capital of Indonesia, and from here the new site of the capital is this place. Okay, so this is somewhere in East Kalimantan. Okay, if we talk about this particular place, so this falls around the East Kalimantan. Okay, so this is the proposed new capital. Okay, the site of new capital, which is decided actually that the new capital will be here. Now, why they are doing this? Okay, yeah, like I told you, we need to understand why the capital is getting changed from Jakarta to the Nusantara place. But before that, just take a look. This is East Kalimantan, okay, and this is Nusantara. So this is a island area, and yeah, and the new capital will be shifted here. Okay, this is Indonesia. This is Central Kalimantan, South Kalimantan, West Kalimantan. And the new capital is in East Kalimantan, right? It is a place which is rich in flora and fauna, okay? This is a place rich in flora and fauna, okay? This entire area. Now you need to understand that why Indonesia is changing its capital from Jakarta, okay, to Nusantara. So the very first reason is because of the increasing population. Okay, the increasing population is one of the reasons. And then apart from that, it is said that there are several environmental issues taking place. Okay, because of the environmental issues taking place. Then the next, it is said that by the year 2050, okay, Indonesia, by the year 2050, many places of Indonesia will be submerged, okay. Will be submerged in water. So there are certain things, and then there are rising inequalities. Okay, so these are some prominent reasons why the capital shifting has been considered in Indonesia. So I hope this is clear to all of you. We'll go ahead with question number 8 now. This question is completely a map-based question. So it says Cuba lies between which of the following water bodies? Okay. So is it lying between Pacific Ocean and Gulf of Mexico? Is it lying between Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea? North Atlantic Ocean and Labrador Sea, or none of the above? Well, without discussing much, I think we should refer the map first, okay? If we see here, we see that this is the place Cuba we are talking about, okay? And this is the Gulf of Mexico, and here it's the Caribbean Sea. Okay, so if we see, if we consider that this is Caribbean Sea and this is Gulf of Mexico, then this is Cuba, which is lying between the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico, right? And if we see, this is the Tropic of Cancer, which is passing from this point, and this is Cuba. Okay. Yeah, so like we saw, just it is at the south of the Tropic of Cancer, okay, and at the intersection of the Atlantic Ocean to the northeast. The Gulf of Mexico is to the west and the Caribbean Sea was to the south, like we checked, okay. So if we see, we can say that it lies between Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. I hope this is clear to you. You can make a depth observation of the map once again, okay, so that the image remains in your head. So yeah, that's all about this question. We'll go ahead with question number 9 now. So yeah, question number 9, we are talking about the Global Cybersecurity Outlook report is released by World Bank, International Monetary Fund, International Telecommunication Union, or World Economic Forum. So it's quite a simple question. I think in the previous video, I'd given you an assignment wherein you had to, list down the reports which is published by the World Economic Forum. So the ones who've actually studied that particular thing might find this question really easy. But for the ones who did not check it or did not follow the previous video, I'll just share the details with you. So World Economic Forum, we've talked about it already. So the Cybersecurity Outlook report is given by the World Economic Forum, okay? It's not given by the World Bank, neither by IMF and neither by ITU. It's about WEF. Number one, you need to understand why the cybersecurity report is there, okay? Because during the COVID times, there was a lot of technology. It was only the technology that came as a savior, okay, for the people, for the working people, for the companies, for the industries, okay. So the world completely shifted in the virtual mode, okay, and everything was going on virtually. And during those times, cybersecurity became a very prominent issue. Because there was a lot of hacking, there was a lot of threats which came along, okay, with the increased use of technology. So that is why this particular Cybersecurity Outlook report came into existence, okay. Now, apart from that, we need to understand who had given this report, okay. This report was given by the World Economic Forum. We've already discussed a lot about the World Economic Forum in the previous video, okay. So I won't discuss much over here. But something which relates to the assignment which I'd given you previously, we'll check certain more reports which is given by World Economic Forum, and that can be asked in your examination also. So enabling trade report is one which is given by the World Economic Forum, okay. The global competitiveness report is also given by World Economic Forum. Global environment performance, okay. Please remember this because that could be a probable question. And global information technology report, gender gap report, human capital index, okay. So human capital index, I'd already told you previously, social mobility report, and travel and tourism competitiveness report, okay. So these are some prominent reports which are given by the World Economic Forum. You need to just read and keep some of them in mind in case they are asking in the examination. Yeah, that's all about it. So here we're talking about question number 10. It's quite a simple question. India has decided to procure Spike anti-tank guided missiles, ATGM, and Huron unmanned aerial vehicles from which country, okay. So this has been in news recently because India and that particular country we're talking about are celebrating 30 years of diplomatic ties, okay. And that is why this question has been here. It is of current importance because of that one reason. So which is that country which has recently celebrated 30 years of diplomatic ties with India? Let us check. Is it USA? No. Is it Russia? No. Is it France? No. Is it Israel? Yes. Okay. So we are talking about Israel and India. So that is the context of this particular question. And this deal has been taken place in the past. You can read about this particular thing. Okay. And they've released, like I told you, India and Israel recently launched a commemorative logo. Okay, why? To mark the 30th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries. Okay, so under the Defense and Security Cooperation of Israel, India is importing the critical defense technology from Israel, and there are regular exchanges between the two countries' armed forces. Okay, recently the army has decided to order launched Spike anti-tank ATGM and UAV, like I told you, from Israel through the emergency procurement route. Okay, so of course India is gearing up because there are tensions which are arising at the LAC, like we all know. So that becomes one of the reasons, okay, to stay prepared in advance. So we'll take a look at the logo, okay, that was launched. So this is the logo which was launched to mark the 30th anniversary of the India-Israel diplomatic ties, right? So yeah, that's all about it. I hope you guys must have enjoyed this session, and we'll be coming up with more such questions. And till then, like I always say, keep exploring, keep learning. Let's learn together, let's grow together, and let's crack together. This is me, Twinkle, signing off. Thank you.